when USA Today released the first images from Tarzan, to get people ready for this trailer debut, I actually tweeted, I said, heads up, this trailer is coming any moment now, because usually that's the PR 1-2 punch that Hollywood likes. They will debut some images, most likely in USA Today actually, and then they will debut the trailer very shortly thereafter. Disney also kind of does the same thing. So when you see something like that pop up, you can know that's a good sign that there's a trailer lurking nearby. That's like a little trailer tracking tip for you. But anyway, I was all ready to do like a really jokey shot-by-shot review, and I was going to call it my ab-by-ab review. But this trailer is actually very restrained and, somewhat seems to be trying to have some dignity as a movie instead of just trying to sell the abs and the sex scenes. And, well, I would assume there was a sex scene in here, and there should be actually, quite frankly, considering the type of movie it is and who they've cast. And, I've been teasing this movie, calling it 50 Shades of Green. But then lo and behold, when the trailer does come out, I feel like I still need to do a shot-by-shot, but it's more to help sell this movie because it needs the help, because I think it looks like really good, actually. But I think that's because I know more about the movie than most moviegoers due to my research. And so if Warner Brothers won't sell this movie properly, I shall help them. Also, by the way, before we get started, rarely have I seen a trailer so well matched with a movie. And this is, of course, debuting to play in front of In the Heart of the Sea. And hopefully it makes more money than In the Heart of the Sea, which is only expected to debut with around $20 million. But this looks really good to me. And you'll also notice at the very end that it says it's an IMAX 3D. So I'm very excited when I see in the Heart of the Sea to see this trailer in front of it and see how it looks in IMAX 3D. Because the Jungle Book trailer looked much better in IMAX 3D than it did on a computer screen. Or, whatever screen you might be watching it on. If it ain't IMAX 3D, trust me, it doesn't look as good. But this looks pretty darn good. So let's get started. And I'm going to fill in the blanks. This isn't perfect by any means, but it's really good. People are comparing it to Pan, but I think it looks better than Pan. I think the Pan changes weren't organic. I guess that's my big problem with it. Now, I love these shots of Africa. Here's a jungle. I just want to pause here for this. A lush, beautiful jungle. And I'm excited about Jungle Book, but I felt it was a little bit, lacking color and the majesty of, what calls people to the jungle to meet Tarzan or Mowgli, right? Well, Mowgli meets animals, but you know what I'm saying. And I think that that's what's so important about these movies, the cinematography. It's one of the reasons that people go and see these movies. For instance, Out of Africa, The Mosquito Coast, bonus points to anyone who knows what movie that is. It stars somebody who we're talking about quite a bit these days, Harrison Ford. But anyway, these kinds of films are really spectacular for their cinematography for as much as the stories that they tell. So I'm very pleased to see that this seems to be the case. David Yates is directing this, who does the Harry Potter films. This actually looks a little better directed than the Potter films, quite frankly, although of course there's that problem that he had to go and start working on Fantastic Beasts and didn't quite finish this movie. So we'll see how it turns out. But this is promising for Fantastic Beasts as well, I think, in terms of action sequences, because you have older characters. All right, so I love the African queen, that romantic image of that romantic image of taking a steamboat down the river in Africa. That's just so great. It's just, you love it already. Now here's Christoph Waltz looking really cool, looking like he fits in this movie perfectly. Very much the white man exploring Africa, and all its glory and also horror. That's a very bad situation, obviously. But I have to tell you, I'm a little bit nervous about sitting through another Christoph Waltz performance, especially after seeing Spectre. He's a very nice gentleman. I think he deserves the 2 Oscars that he has, but he's so one note. I think a little Christoph Waltz goes a long way, and I think he's on the cusp, if not already approaching oversaturation. So we'll see how he does here. I do like his line. I do like his line quite a bit. Now, I like showing the different aspects of the jungle, in Africa. And I like bringing in the tribes of Africa. I think that in the indigenous people, often Tarzan is about Tarzan, the apes, and the humans from England, right? I think it's really nice to play up the people who are, Tarzan might be the only white man on the continent of Africa who, I guess, wants to leave it as is. But there's lots of other man as in mankind there as well. So I like showing that, and I think in a more respectful manner than was usually the case with these movies, early on, in early days of Hollywood and the franchise. All right, so Another beautiful shot. Wow, that's gorgeous. Now, I like the way the apes look. Some people think they look too CGI. They're not Planet of the Apes quality. Maybe they'll get there. And it would have been nice maybe if they had done, maybe they did do motion capture. I think, because, it looks good to me. I think, and it certainly looks good enough. We'll see how it looks in the movie. But in the trailer, I'm pleased with the way the apes look, right? They also look like someone who would do a good job raising a king of the jungle, and that he would learn a lot of cool, really badass stuff, right? These look like badass apes, so I like that. Now that's another beautiful shot. I mean, these are just spectacular. Beautiful shot after beautiful shot. For those of us, not everybody appreciates cinematography to the same degree, but I really feel that movies, if you're going to make especially an epic blockbuster like this, every frame you should be able to pause it and almost put it up in a frame on your wall. And I think Tarzan, to a large degree, has that. So I'm very, very excited about that. Now look at that treehouse. That's just spectacular. Talk about a little Swiss Family Robinson vibe going on there, and the lightning. I mean, that's just gorgeous, right? I mean, if someone paused this and said, what's this from? I think Tarzan would be a pretty good bet. And so I think, with Pan, they were changing so much that you're like, I kind of see Peter Pan, but I don't know where you're going with this. But I like I don't know if authenticity is the right word, but I like the respect for the source material. Like it's like somewhat like what Disney's doing with their live action fairy tales. And obviously this is supposed to draw on that and capture that craze for Warner Brothers, but it's like everything that you ever wanted out of this fairy tale, to turn up to an 11. And that's why people like the Disney ones, and I think that's why I think this looks so good. Now this is like right, this is like right out of Disney. Like, I'm like, wow, that reminds me a lot of the scene from, Tarzan, the animated movie, which I really loved, by the way. But this looks really spectacular. And I think, I like, Tarzan, step sibling right there. But you can really see, like, the humanity of the eyes of the apes here. I think that's really cool. And I don't know if, I think I've told this story before, but I've seen apes in captivity at the zoo. And it's always been really disturbing and you always see stories about this, too, that they're just so eerily cognizant and just aware that you're like, I don't really think it's appropriate to have them, locked up like this on display. It just shows you it reminds you how similar that we are. So I think that looks great. I like it a lot. I'm curious to see how they show why this baby's alone in this treehouse. Now there's the baby as an adult. Still adorable. I'm very excited for Alexander Skarsgard in this movie. Now here they're introducing him. Okay, right there, actually. Let's pause that. So I guess they're going to have maybe some flashback sequences for how Jane and Tarzan met, perhaps. Because you'll notice there are two versions of Tarzan here. Because this movie, let me start to fill you in on the story a little bit. This is a sequel to Tarzan. This takes place many years later. And I'm going to try and let the story unfold as the trailer does. As I would have hoped that the trailer had actually done. But anyway, so you see two versions of Tarzan. You see one with straight, blown-out hair. That's him in present day of the story. But then also you're seeing a dreadlocked Tarzan, and I believe that's him, back in the original Tarzan Meets Jane story that Edgar Rice Burroughs originally wrote. So you see Jane, playing some hide-and-seek, sexy hide-and-seek, and there's Tarzan up here. So that looks very cool. Alexander Skarsgard, by the way, True Blood kind of like jumped the shark a little bit towards the end, but he was really good on that show. So I'm hoping that he can make the transition to film. He won't get a better opportunity than this because this role is perfect for him. So I hope he isn't too beefcake. Well, I guess nobody would be like, why would you hope that, Grace? And, obviously Margot Robbie there is for cheesecake. This is like a full meal for everyone. Everybody has something they like. And I think that's good, and you want to capitalize on that, but I think you don't want it to be like softcore porn or Magic Mike, right? I think you want to go a little better than that. And I think these actors are capable of that. That's really cool. Look at him run there. Oh, yep, I'm seeing loincloth action. If you go real slowly through the leaves, everyone's like, yep, I think loincloth for sure. Interesting way to go. Now here she has a line where she says, no one has started out with less. I don't know. He's got a comfortable home. He has a family. He has people who care about him and are teaching him. He has everything he could ever want from the jungle, right? I think people have started out with less. But, that's her guy. She's selling him. In this movie, they're married. They're already living together in London. All right, she is Mrs. Tarzan. So during any sex scenes, you can feel nice about it. Now, I like this quite a bit. Here you hear the Tarzan yell. A little hard to discern. I think maybe it almost makes me feel like he's like, is that the classic Tarzan yell? I don't quite hear it. But then I love that shot. Margot Robbie has a very difficult task here because while she has to provide eye candy for the male audience or anyone who's interested in Margot Robbie, she doesn't want to off-put the other half. Both actors actually find themselves in that position. Usually you have, one person is like the super hot person and the other person is like the spunky person with lots of personality. And then everyone picks who they relate to and who they think is the more attractive ideal, right? Like, do you value looks or personality more, right? And so that's usually the formula for these kind of romantic movies. But here, they've gone hot and hot, and that's very tricky. So again, it's up to these actors, Margot Robbie and Alexander Skarsgard, to overcome that and to break past just like the super hotness and also show really, in-depth characters that are interesting and that you can root for. And here, I think she sold this really well with just a look where she was like, oh yeah, he's going to beat the crap out of you for taking me. So I think that's excellent. They said in some of the coverage that she won't just be a damsel in distress, but she seems pretty damsel-y in distress to me here. Although that's fine. Jane is a damsel in distress. Not everybody has to be empowered. I mean, there are different types of women in different types of situations, and this is Jane. All right, but it looks great. Really cool. Now they're selling. Now that looks great. Look at that. He looks really cool. And I like that Alexander Skarsgård isn't just like, yeah, I'm a hot guy in a loincloth in the jungle and I'm all wet. You're welcome. But he's moving like an animal. He's making the artistic choices that you would like to hope to see an actor make. And I think that's going to go a long way towards selling him and not alienating people who, are like, oh, I'm here for Margot Robbie, but, Alexander Skarsgård just makes me not like the whole thing. Everybody has to feel good. So I like the scars on his back there. I don't know if that's like if it's healing or if it's been ripped. It looks painful, and you can still see it's kind of red. That's really cool. All right. I really like this trailer. I'm surprised that some people didn't seem to like it. So this is great. I love it when he says, he's Tarzan, you're Jane, he'll come for you. And it's like, yeah, he will. You really can't argue against that. I mean, it's kind of like 101. So I like that. And I think he said that very well. And I also, I think Margot Robbie, I like her look here. I think it's a little bit de-glammed. I think that's important for her after Wolf of Wall Street and the very over-glammed, intentionally so, Suicide Squad. I think this is good for her to at least sport different looks, even if she's going to be kind of playing similar characters in all the movies that she's in right now. I love the visual effects. Let's go back to that. I love the visual effects of him swinging through the jungle. They sell it. It looks amazing. I buy it. And so again, it's a little bit like when I saw Superman in Superman Returns. I was like, man, this movie sucks. But visual effects have gotten to the point where they can convincingly portray Superman. And I feel the same way with Tarzan. They had to do the animated Disney version because they couldn't do a live action version and make it convincing, but now they can. Just like I'm curious to see a live action Little Mermaid. They had to do it at first because they couldn't do a CGI live action Little Mermaid, so that's made it a great property for animation. But now I think maybe they can. That's very exciting. But he looks so cool. That's an amazing, again, another amazing still. Now that shot, more so. Natives running. Oh, you can see there. Christoph Waltz looks like he torched their home, or fired upon it. This is the stereotypical, settlers or pioneers or explorers versus the indigenous people. But you know what? You need that because that's part of the Tarzan story. You want to have those staples. People are expecting them. Just like with a fairy tale. Where's the castle? Where's the magic? Where are the beautiful gowns, the great costumes? So, it's part of the package. All right. Now that's actually the only real embrace you see between the two of them. Now this is interesting because he's very injured. Oh, you can see he is stitched up there. Oh, yikes. That's going to leave a mark. And he has some new scars. And this looks like it's maybe like a shot after the Christoph Waltz altercation. Like he did come and get her, and surprise, surprise, Christoph Waltz, you lost. But I think it's interesting that they're really holding back on showing any amorous activity between the two of them. So we'll see which direction the movie goes with that. But they look like a really good couple, and also they're selling it in terms of like, we've been together a long time. Maybe they're like, why do we have so many problems all the time? But I like it. There's a happy natives shot. That looks good. I think not as cool as I can always mispronounce his name. Djimon Honsou. I think he looks a little bit cooler. All right. Now this. Now you're starting to see shots of England. All right, so now we're starting to get a little bit teases of the setup, right? So this takes place years after Tarzan and Jane met in Africa, and she brought him back to the UK, to London. So that's where your movie's going to start, where Tarzan lives in England. He lives there with his wife. He's very happy, and he's very well assimilated, as you can see from this next photo. There he is, man's world, dressed like everyone else, and has lost some of his animal qualities. So this movie is actually very much a returning to his roots kind of film, where he's drawn back to the Congo, and you're going to see more of that as we go forward here. Now there's Djimon Honsou. He looks great. Even though I can't pronounce his name very well, he looks amazing. And whenever I see him, I think about this comment he made about his son and why he was in Guardians of the Galaxy, when he said his son wanted to play with action figures and felt bad that there weren't any ones with, not only that were black, but that had dark skin. And so it gave his, Honsou the impetus to really go after those types of roles, to give his son those kind of figures in movies. It's the old, everybody likes to see themselves in their favorite movies. Well, obviously, duh. That's a famous quote from Dick Wolf in LA Law and Order, when he started putting women in the show, and he was like, crazy, women like watching themselves on the screen. Who would have ever guessed that? And it applies to every group. So I'm glad to see him playing such a majestic, powerful character here, to give more inspiration to his son and others. Is he wearing a giraffe on his head? I don't know what that is, but it looks like the eyes of something. I think it is a giraffe on his head. Wow. He was very artistic with that. That's but also kind of disgusting that there's still an eyeball in there. How does he maintain that? Why doesn't it just rot? I don't know, but it looks pretty cool. Or maybe it's a cheetah. A cheetah's a little cooler than a giraffe. All right. Maybe he wears that as a mask. All right, so that looks fantastic. What is that? Who's on there? They're really moving fast there. At the very least, it's Tarzan, obviously, and I don't know who's on his back. But let's see here. That looks so great. Looks like some train action. There's Tarzan. Okay, here, Samuel L. Jackson. Now, I'm surprised they have not played it up more, but he's playing a really important character in this movie, because his character is based on a real person, George Washington Williams, who was one of the first, black leaders in the United States. He was a soldier. He was a statesman. He was somebody who started a newspaper. He was, I believe, in Ohio, the first black person elected to office at the state level. And I believe it was the state level, but it was a pretty substantial office. I was looking this up because I was like, oh, wow, he's a real guy. That's so cool. Why haven't you talked about that more? So I think that's really cool. He gets to play that character, and that they put him in this movie. So that's a huge selling point for this film. And I can't believe they're not doing more to be like, hey, look what we got. It's pretty amazing. We folded a real guy into this story. And he really did go to the Congo, even in real life, to see how the indigenous people were being treated there by the people, I believe, of Belgium. So very interesting. And apparently he met Tarzan. That's a great shot. That looks so amazing. There's old George again. Okay, so we have some kind of fight between Honsou. We got a little bit better look. That does look like a leopard. That's a great outfit. Versus Tarzan, who's like, I don't need clothes. He's got these pants. Okay, whenever you see Tarzan without the dreadlocks and in full pants, that's current modern day Tarzan, right? So maybe he has to prove himself when he comes back. They're like, you've gone soft. You left. You went to England. We don't want to listen to you anymore. You're no longer the king of the jungle. Maybe this guy feels he's the new king of the jungle. So they have to have out a fight in the middle in this cool water area. Like, want to fight in the water? That would be nice. That's a good, our PR manager for the tribe said that was a pretty good place to do it. So, and they're like, oh, it sounds good. All right. Now there, right there. See there? There he is, Tarzan, having returned with some people as guides. It looks like we have two different tribes here, right? One tribe that seems to be working with maybe the Belgians. Maybe they actually are the Belgians in the movie. Christoph Waltz's character. And then now here with Tarzan. And then we'll see what happens with the people that Honsou is working. He's leading. He's not working with them. He's leading them. But so here's Tarzan returning to the Congo. Gorgeous, gorgeous shot. That's the only CGI shot right there. These wildebeests. It looks very poor. Wildebeests. They'll kill kings like Mustafa, and they will also take down your building. Or chase Mowgli. Now that was interesting. Let's see here. So everybody's upset with Tarzan. Boy, you can't go home again, huh? Yeah, that's new Tarzan. So I guess he's got to prove himself to the apes. He has to prove himself to the indigenous people. This is crazy. What a horrible welcome. Now there, though, they cut from all the current Tarzan to this older shot of Tarzan with the dreadlocks. He's like, hey, Jane, we have the same hairstyle. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. So let's see here. This favorite shot. Love it. Love it. So amazing. Now you see he has full pants on, so he's keeping some of his dignity. He's not just there to be eye candy, but he still looks amazing. You know what? That's what I like about this the most. He looks like Tarzan. He's there with his fellow apes. They're co-leading. He is not the king of the jungle. He's one of the jungle elders, one of the jungle leaders. He's the prince of the jungle, the fighter, the warrior for the jungle, but he defers to the people who know it best. I like that. I think that's good. I think the rain is very tastefully done. I think also the mist, Gorillas in the Mist, obviously another great movie about Africa, by the way. Really love it. That's just fantastic. That to me is Tarzan. They're like, it is Tarzan. It's the Legend of Tarzan. Please come see it. Now here. Now this is interesting. Now you see that this is George Washington Williams, Samuel L. Jackson's character, throwing this down, and it's like one of those old publications they used to have back then. Like, oh, I forget the name off the top of my head. It was like they also used to have these stories. You see it all the time about like these little kids who would always pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but whatever. You've seen this kind of imagery before. But here's one about Tarzan. So he's trying to remind Tarzan of who he was, right? And so you. Let's see. So you cut here to George Washington Williams. Oh, and there's Jim Broadbent. Trying to convince Tarzan, you gotta come with me to the Congo, man. And then here's Tarzan, as you can see, fully assimilated to his new surroundings. He can really live anywhere. Tarzan adapts. And I think to Alexander Skarsgard's credit, he's pulling this off as well. He looks very good. I'm getting it. I think the joke about the pinky with the T, a little lame. I maybe wouldn't have gone there. I don't know. Alexander Skarsgård, actually, I was going to say maybe he's not that funny, but he was quite funny on True Blood. But maybe he just can't do all types of humor. I think we'll see. Maybe it plays better in the context of the movie. And also, it's extremely subtle. I don't know if everybody even picked up on that. But so maybe Tarzan has a sense of humor, or maybe that's really how Tarzan drinks tea. We will see. And then, well, you see, obviously, his gorilla friend was disgusted. Now, this is great. That's amazing. Look at that. That's just so cool. That, again, I feel like it's Tarzan. You immediately look at it and you have that recognition factor. So that's the trailer for Tarzan, The Legend of Tarzan. Comes out, as you can see, in Real D and IMAX 3D. I'm telling you, you're going to want to see this in IMAX 3D. I'm very excited to see the trailer In the Heart of the Sea. So if you go and see that in IMAX 3D, make sure this weekend, make sure you don't miss the trailers so that you can see this as well. So what do you think? Do you feel any better about it now that I've explained a little bit more to you? And what do you think? Do you buy this as Tarzan? I think this is approaching Disney levels of quality in terms of an live-action animation film or adaptation. I think it looks that good to me, and so I hope it actually delivers on that level. I really do. I really, really do, because I wanted Pan to be good, but I couldn't get behind it. It was so awful. All right, so again, write your thoughts down below. Thank you for taking this journey with me, and I've booked my tickets for the Congo. How about you? Write your thoughts down below, and be sure to stay tuned for much more coverage of movies like Tarzan and more. And you can check out these other episodes right now.